Bruce Hutcheon's Whitetail Rendezvous at POMA, William Hovey Smith, 2017. I'm the author of Backyard Deer Hunting and also the owner of a new company, Hovey's Knives of China. And Bruce and I happen to be roommates at a POMA, Professional Outdoor Media Organization, annual meeting in Shreveport. And here is an interview we did with each other. It has several parts. One, we talk about Hovey's Knives of China. Two, we talk about how we each took our first deer. And three, we say a little bit about POMA as a media organization for outdoor writers, videographers, performers, etc. So stay with us, because we've got some really interesting stuff to say.
This is Bruce Hutcheon, and I'm the host and executive producer of Whitetail Rendezvous, and I'm with down in Shreveport, Louisiana. And Hovey and I joined up, and we're sharing quarters here at the POMA convention, POMA Professional Outdoor Media Association. Hovey's been a writer and an author and videographer and a creator. He's got a number of books, as you can see here, and crossbow hunting. Now, he wrote this book before crossbow hunting was as mainstream as it is today. Then he's got practical bow fishing. So Hovey kind of likes to do the things the hard way, and he talks about muzzleloader hunting. But this morning we're going to spend 10 or 15 minutes talking about his knives.
And here's a close-up of some of the interesting knives that we make.
Hovey's going to share a couple of stories. He's got a couple of knives. So, Hovey, why don't you talk to us for a while?
Sure. What I have done is I went to China, and I've long been interested in Chinese knives, even as a kid, when I was very intrigued by Chinese knife money. This was something produced in pre-imperial China some 3,000 years ago. Bronze was such a valuable commodity that they did not waste any. So when they made a knife had to do more than just merely cut. This knife, for example, is obviously a chopping knife, but you can also grasp it by the point here and do very, very delicate cutting. You can break up your spices in a bowl. The handle here is inclined, so when you chop down, your hands and knuckles clear the surface. And these are features that were valuable then and valuable now to today's cooks and chefs. This, for example, is not a cleaver as we would think of it in the normal sense. This is a chef's knife. You can scrape a pan or a flat piece of sheet steel with it. You can grasp it like this and do very, very delicate cutting. It, of course, is a fine mincer, and it's meant to be used with this point on the cutting surface and going down like this. As you're well aware, most Chinese food is chopped fine, so it can be eaten with chopsticks. If you're cooking on a piece of sheet steel, like at a Waffle House, then you use your knife to work your product across the steel, and you can even serve with it and reach over and stir a pot. So this was an amazingly sophisticated design for a piece of cutlery. Quite unlike the military knives of the day, these were designed in bronze for these particular uses. And we also have another inspiration from a character by the name of Billy Joe Rubidoux. Now, Billy Joe was born in the Lower Louisiana parishes, poor boy. He fell upon hard times. He was actually taken from his family by the state, which was good in the sense that he actually got to go to school, otherwise he wouldn't have. He was brilliant, won a Pell Grant, went to Louisiana State University, returned back to his home parish as an engineer, founded a company called Nutria Burgers of Louisiana, and with Chinese backing, and he exported the meat from the nutria and the hides from the nutria to China and collected the bounties on the nutria, which were $2 for a pair of ears. But life events happened, namely Katrina. And Katrina completely wiped him out. There was nothing left. He barely escaped with his life by going up the Mississippi, and when he did, he had to dodge a flotilla of floating coffins coming down the Mississippi, including one which was his own mother's, although he didn't know it at the time. And he was broke and devastated after that. His wife, Bobby Jean, had left him and she wanted alimony. His Chinese backers wanted that money and they wanted it now. He had none. So he took what he had and he made what he needed. He established a barbecue establishment down in the lower parishes on some land that his uncle had left him, which was a little higher. And he made barbecue and stuff and he sold it up and down I-10. But his activities gained a small degree of prosperity and note, and he attracted the attention of two groups of people, the Louisiana Fish and Game people, as well as the state health department. Fish and Game people wanted to know where all this meat was coming from, and it was coming from the Delta, just like the agents had always taken meat from the Delta, season or no season. The state health department was wondering about the sanitary conditions of his establishment down there, which he had built out of whatever he could scrounge left over from Katrina. Beset by all these difficulties, he sold everything he had, he put his money in a bag, he took one of his homemade knives like this, and he plunged that knife through the money down on the table. And he went out with his mama's Bible, a bottle of Bayou rum, a pistol, his dad's pistol, a pirogue, and a pole, and went off of the bayou and was never seen again. It is assumed that Billy Joe read the Bible, drank the rum, blew his brains out, went down in the gator hole, and was eaten by the gators. But maybe not. Because there was a tale that he showed up in Portland, Oregon. And then in Shanghai, Singapore, and maybe was sighted in Goa, the Portuguese colony of India, where he was living with a lady who was a millionaire, but was originally of Maori extraction from New Zealand, who made a fortune on her late husband's cosmetic business. Using Billy Joe's ideas as inspiration, we make knives out of found steels. This particular blade is out of a 150-year-old scythe, which slaves used to cut wheat and fodder in central Georgia. And I made it into a very handsome knife and handled it actually in tea olive, which is one of the trees that Billy Joe sheltered in during a hurricane. And this particular strange looking tool is a rib flipper. It's used on the grill to push things around, move your ribs, etc., etc., etc. So these are the items that we make on custom order from Hovey's Knives of China. And if you wish to see more of them, you can go to my website, www.hoveysmith.com, or to another blog site, which I'll give you the directions to below, and see a catalog of our current offerings. So that, very, very quickly, is some of what we do with Hovey's Knives of China.
And now, Bruce and I are going to tell you how we took our first ever deer.
This is Hovey Smith, the Backyard Sportsman. And today I have Bruce Hutcheons, who has a podcast, Whitetail Rendezvous. And we are going to talk about deer, naturally enough, and some other stuff. Bruce, I understand you had an interesting night last night with people talking about how they got their first deers.
Yes, sir.
And how did you get yours? I understand that you now live in Colorado. Were you living there then?
No, I was a student at the University of Wisconsin, La Crosse, Wisconsin. I came out of New York City, well, actually Long Island, and I headed west for fame and fortune, and my college, they let me in, truth be told. They let me in. Eastern schools weren't really interested in my grade point. But so I got out to Wisconsin, and that's a third piece from Massapequa, Long Island.
Yes, sir.
And so come Thanksgiving, I was working in a tavern. I worked my way through school, and I worked for a friend. And he said, "What are you doing for Thanksgiving, Hutch?" And I said, "Well, being here, I don't have any place to go." And he said, "Well, you're going to come home with me. We're going to have Thanksgiving. We got the family, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to Union Center along the Baraboo River." And I said, "Well, that works great." And he said, "You got to get a gun." I said, "Why do I have to get a gun?" He said, "We're going whitetail hunting." I said, well, how am I going to do that? He said, well, you're going to work a few more hours. And that's exactly what I did, and made an all total of about $100. And that $100 bought me a box of shotgun slugs, bought me a J.C. Higgins 12-gauge shotgun, bought me a kind of a cloak coverall red thing, red hat, and a pair of rubber lace boots. And I had, of course, my jeans, and I had a wool shirt. And that's how we went. We went to his house and just bought my license. They said, here's what we're going to do. And that's what we did. Back in those days, they drove deer. It was a family drive.
Yes.
And by a family drive, we get on both sides of the river, and we'd have standers. And they knew where the deer were going to come out of the marsh and the river. And so they'd put those people along the bluffs or in the cuts and the creeks that were coming down or whatever. And of course, I didn't get that choice spot because I'm a newbie and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So I said, just go from here, see that tree down there? When you get to that tree, just go to the right, you'll be fine. And that's what I did. And that day we killed a total of 5 deer that morning, and we threw them in the truck, and I was fortunate enough to get my first deer. And that deer had kind of gone around the drive, and my buddy goes, come on, come on, come on. So I go with him, and he gets on the field with his 30-06 with a scope on it. He says, see that log? Lay down below, beside that log. The deer's either going to come across me, or he's going to come right here, and he's going to come down, and that's how it come off the top. And so I said, okay. So I'm laying there, and I hear this squirrel. You know, I know it's a squirrel because that's the only thing I ever heard in the woods. As a young kid, never seen a deer. And so I'm just laying there. And all of a sudden, I see him. I can see him. He's about 100 yards away in the field. Got a scope up on him. He's not pointing at me, but he's looking kind of
Somewhere down the wood line.
Yep, down to the right. He's looking. I see him looking. I go, I wonder. And I hear the squirrel coming. And all of a sudden, he goes, you know. And then, so I jump up. I don't sneak up. I just jump up, and my gun comes up, and there's a deer. He isn't for me to that door. Actually, he's closer than that. And
so less than 20 yards, huh?
Well, yeah, at the most. Anyway, so boom, and I got a 12 gauge. So I got, back in that day there was no plug, so I think I got 7 shots, 5 shots at least. Boom. He keeps walking right by me. I mean, he's just right by me, and I swing on, boom, and then he starts walking up the hill, boom. He's still walking. He's not down, so I, boom. And my buddy's just laughing. He says, how many times are you going to kill that deer? And truth be told, I hit him once through the lungs, and I hit him once in the ear. He had a hole in his ear.
Right.
And the guys just laugh, and he says, I've never seen something like that ever before. And so I had my first deer in the ground, and it stayed with us for 51 years. I'll be hunting with the same gentleman on the same farm 51 years later.
Yes, sir. Well, that's a good story, and that is typical of the Midwestern family hunt.
Back in the day.
They do that sort of thing in the Midwest. It's always been illegal in the Southeast, however, to drive deer in such a manner. And my first deer was an incidental deer. I was in college at the time. My father had died about 8 years before, so I really didn't have a chance to learn to hunt from him. And besides that, we were just getting deer in Georgia. They had been practically extincted in the middle part of the state, and only after World War II were they restocked. And when I was in high school, it was the talk of the kids all around if they even saw a deer track, much less see a deer. But by the time I was in college, there was a huntable population, there was a regular season, and I was down in the bottom of Williamson Swamp Creek, which is just like it sounds like it ought to be, woodcock hunting. I had an L.C. Smith double with me, a 16 gauge, and I had the good sense to put some buckshot in my vest in case I happened to see a deer. Well, I put only 2 rounds of buckshot in there. I was looking for woodcock. So I was stomping around through this sort of knee to shin high stuff trying to kick out a woodcock. And I heard a dog chase up on the upland somewhere. So I stopped and I looked over to the other side of the creek, thinking perhaps the dogs might chase a deer down my way. Well, as it turns out they didn't. But simultaneously, walking up the trail, whilst I was standing in the creek dressed in waders, here comes this buck. And he also hears the dog chase, and so his attention is focused in that direction. So as he gets abreast of me, I silently break that L.C. Smith and take those shot loads out and put my 2 buckshot loads in, carefully close it. With a double gun, you can break it and operate it almost silently. Put the safety off, aim behind the shoulder, bam! Bam! And deer runs. Well, 16 gauge buckshot is a #1 buck, which is a middling sized buck. It's smaller than the usual double off 30 caliber buck. Well, I had no doubt I had hit that deer, but had I killed it? That was the question. Because it was running full out when I saw it. And it rounded a little curve in the creek and I couldn't see it anymore. So I went down on the trail and started looking. Well, we all know about blood trailing deer. Well, buckshot don't leave no blood trail guy. So I was, oh shit. So I was following the tracks. And the deer went along the trail a bit, and then all of a sudden it turned and went up a rather steep-sided ravine going out of the creek valley. And I could see the disturbed leaves. So I followed that line of disturbed leaves, still not a drop of blood up there. And I found him bedded down. He was crumped over to one side, down, but still alive. Well, I was out of buckshot. I only had 2 left, but I did have a duck load. So I put that 16 gauge duck load of #4s in the skull, and that finished him off. And then I had a whale of a drag for one guy, pulling a 150-pound deer up a very steep embankment. But I got it up there. Yes, sir, I did do that. And got it up there and loaded it up by myself and put it in the truck by myself. And I was about 18. I was, well, a pretty stout guy at 18, but no, not a strong man by any stretch of the imagination. But it was quite a struggle, but I got it up there. So that was the story of my first deer.
How did you taste?
Oh, it tasted very good.
You have to take a magnet to get that buckshot out?
No, of course the buckshot is lead and not magnetic, but we found that we had hit it, and of all of that buckshot, those 2 rounds that I fired, only about 3 pellets really penetrated the vital area of the deer, as it turned out. So that was my first deer. I've taken many since, but that was certainly one of the most exciting ones. And it was, well, it was a decent 4-pointer, not a very big, huge deer, but a nice first deer.
That's great.
So that's my first deer story.
Now, Hovey's very humble. He's been involved with POMA, Professional Outdoor Media Association, for a number of years. And he's a character because he knows how to tell a story and lived long enough to experience some of these stories. So saying all that, what's so special about POMA? You always show up and add some color and some character to the goings-on. So tell us about POMA.
And in this last section, we're going to say a little bit about POMA, Professional Outdoor Media Association.
POMA is a Professional Outdoor Media Association. POMA is more of the hook and bullet writers of the outdoor world. We are those that are actively involved in hunting and fishing and outdoor materials, who actually take game, cook, and do these kinds of things of interest to hunters and fishermen. So that separates us a little bit from the other outdoor organizations which have a larger umbrella and bring in all sorts of people, including all hikers and bikers and so on and so on and so on. So on. There's absolutely nothing wrong with those activities. But we wanted an organization that concentrated on the hardcore hunting and fishing issues. Well, POMA is available to those who actually make a significant portion of their living from the outdoor writing profession. The requirements of membership is fairly strict in that you have to publish regularly, not just one outdoor article a year. I mean, you've got to be more prolific than that. You also have to establish some sort of reputation in the industry to gain admission to POMA. So it's a little bit an elite group in that respect. Now, if you're a beginning outdoor writer just starting out, by all means, get into your state association, then get into your regional association, and then get into POMA. So the POMA Association is for those who really have a seasoned record in the outdoor writing, and I should include video production and radio production fields.
And podcasting.
Yes, and do this on a regular basis. We're now opening up further for those who may only blog. So we're opening up membership. If you could show us a record where you are blogging about outdoors, you have a reasonable number of followers, and that's such, you're welcome. You're welcome to come in and join us, learn how to expand your horizons, get into video, get into books, get into magazines, etc., etc. As it turns out these days, no one can make a living purely writing about the outdoor world. That possibility just doesn't exist anymore. But if you get into some product line like I'm doing with Hovey's Knives of China, or do guiding, or any of a number of other things, you can do outdoor writing successfully, although you'll certainly not make your fortune at it.
And so with that, Bruce Hutcheon, host and executive director of Whitetail Rendezvous, it's almost breakfast time here. We're going to spend a range day, so we're going to see stuff that nobody else has seen today. We're going to shoot gear that nobody else has shot, and it's going to be a fun day. That's what I think.
But now, this is Hovey Smith, reminding you to hunt what you eat and eat what you hunt. Be ethical, be legal, be safe. Goodbye, God bless, and see you next time.
Among my prize-winning books are Extreme Muzzleloading, Backyard Deer Hunting, and Crossbow Hunting, as well as a series of e-books on muzzleloading guns, including Hunting with Muzzleloading Shotguns and Smoothbore Muskets. It's interesting that we both, as young guys, happened to take our first game with shotguns. Now I use mostly muzzleloading rifles and pistols, although I still hunt with smoothbores. For more about Bruce Hutcheons and Whitetail Rendezvous, you can go to www.whitetailrendezvous.com. For more about my books, blogs, and more than 625 videos, you can go to www.hoveysmith.com. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye, and God bless.